Welcome back to Fashion here. Time for my mid-season review for Williams, the team 9th in the Constructors' Championship. So first, starting off with the drivers teaming head-to-head. Of course, Albon and Sargent, they're two drivers again for this season, and predictably it's been about the same as it was in 2023. For Albon, currently ahead in qualifying 13-0. Again, looking on course to have another whitewashing qualifying. Of course, Sargent has out-qualified Albon in some of the spring qualifying sessions, but I'm not really counting those sessions here. Median qualifying delta, just over 0.3 of a second. So again, an improvement from Sargent in qualifying this season compared to his rookie season 2023. But again, it's probably not quite as much improvement as Williams would be hoping for. That difference in qualifying really shows itself out in the average starting position. So for Albon, 14.18, and for Sargent, 17.56. So almost 3.5 positions difference between the pair of them. And with that back group being quite tight with Sauber, Haas, Alpine, and RB as well. Again, because those teams are so tight in qualifying, a good qualifying session for Albon, for example, could mean that he's starting just outside the top 10. And for Sargent, a poor qualifying session might mean that he's starting last on the grid. So again, that can definitely contribute to that being a bit big. Average finishing position, slightly closer for Albon. He is improving on his starting position. Average finishing position, 13.64. Sargent is 16.36. So about just under 3 positions difference. So again, that is a bit of an improvement for Sargent compared to last season, but again, probably not as much as Williams were expecting. For points, 4 for Albon, 0 for Sargent. In terms of rank in the Drivers' Championship, Albon is 18th and Sargent is 20th, only ahead of Valtteri Bottas on countback. Now, in terms of how I feel these drivers have done this season, in terms of my their average on my power rankings, for Albon 12.4, which ranks 12th on the grid, and for Sargent 17.9, which unfortunately for him ranks dead last. That average is actually an improvement on his average for 2023. So again, I do feel like he is doing a bit better than last year, but again, not by enough. Points above expected. So again, how I feel how they're doing in the races compared to the strength of the car and where they're starting on the grid. For Albon, negative 0.11, and for Sargent, negative 0.92. And again, for Albon, that number is still pretty good. It still comes out as 97%, so just under 100%. So again, right about where you would expect. And for Sargent, again, because he scored no points, 0%. And I've already calculated these numbers for all of the teams and all the drivers, and you have a lot of negatives, and I think it's really because there's a lot less mechanical DNFs this year, because reliability is so strong. That contributes to a lot of numbers being slightly below 100 for drivers like Albon, who might have picked up a couple more points if there were a couple more DNFs for teams higher up the grid. Now, looking at Williams, the constructor, last 4 years, 2021 last season of the previous rule set, finished 8th, 23 points, quite a bit of luck in there with Russell getting his qualifying podium at Spa, Latifi getting a 7th place finish at the Crash Fest at the Hungaroring. Pole gap 1.739 seconds, so I think in qualifying, actually I'm not entirely sure, but I think in race pace they were definitely the slowest, but I think in qualifying, Russell's qualifying exploits meant that I don't think they were dead last in that metric. Average minimum finishing position 12.85, which again, worst of the 4 years. But surprisingly, second best so far in terms of points. So again, really showing that I think they got quite lucky with some of those points that year. 2022 first year of the ground effect regulations, 10th in the constructors, last 8 points. Average pole gap 2.257 seconds, again, much bigger than it is right now. And that average minimum finishing position, however, did improve compared to 2021 of a 12.3. 2023, again, a breakout year, a season that was actually quite a bit better than many even inside the team were expecting. 7th in the constructors, 28 points, pole gap of 1.299 seconds. So again, in that pole gap, which is really important for qualifying and being able to put yourself in a good position for Sunday, they dropped almost a second there, so massive improvement there. Average minimum finishing position 11.35, so about a position improvement there. 2024 through half the season, 9th in the constructors, 4 points so far, so maybe on pace for about 7 or 8 points. We're over 50%, so again, probably trending closer towards a 6 or 7 points for the rest of the season total. Average pole gap, actually, despite the fact that they've kind of taken a step back in terms of pecking order, they have still improved in that respect. 1.252 seconds, so about half a tenth improvement there. Average minimum finishing position, though, has taken a step back compared to last year, 12.71. But again, when you compare to my quarter season report, so races 1 through 6, you would see that they have improved on those numbers. So for average starting position, Albon was 14.75, for Sargent 18.86. So compared to that now, you can see both numbers have improved. So again, it seems in qualifying they are doing a bit better than they were after the first quarter of the season. Average finishing position for Albon, that number's improved, 13.86. Actually, no, that's gone worse, 13.86 there compared to 13.64. And for Sargent, has improved slightly, 16.0 compared to 16.36. Actually, no. Do I have that backwards? Yes, I do have that backwards. Yes. So for Albon, he improved. He was 13.86 to the first quarter. It's improved to 13.64. And for Sargent, 16.0 for the first quarter, and now at 16.36. So again, gone a little worse. Yes, I had it right the first time when I made the board. Again, seems like they are making small steady improvements through the season. Again, it will be interesting to see how they fare in that battle kind of at the bottom of the Constructors' Championship. I think Haas and RB are probably a bit too much out of reach at this point, but again, I still think 8th in the Constructors, that battle against Alpine is still at play. But that being said, it's pretty clear that Williams is still like they were in 2023, like they were pretty much every year since I think arguably 2018, there was basically a one-car team where Albon is basically scoring the bulk of their drivers' points. And again, it's going to be pretty hard to go up against Ocon and Gasly when you have two pretty capable drivers as your main competition. And speaking of that, there have been rumblings around the paddock that Williams and James Vowles would be willing to do a favor for Toto Wolff and perhaps put their young driver in their Williams seat for the second half of 2024. Of course, that being Kimi Antonelli. Again, not sure how feasible it is. Of course, he kind of has that exception for the super license. And the F2 season's gone okay. It's been a bit up and down. He has been a bit better than Behrman, I feel. And of course, if you say Behrman's good enough for an F1 seat, then based on those results in Formula 2, you would say Antonelli is too. For Sargent, again, he's improved a little bit, but again, because he started so far behind in comparison to Albon last year, he had so much more ground to make up. And again, a really good comparison was Yuki Tsunoda. And again, if you compare second-year numbers between Tsunoda and Sargent, Sargent is really trailing quite a bit. I think Tsunoda was out qualifying Gasly once every 3 qualifying sessions or so, and for Sargent he's yet to out qualify Albon at all. So again, I think big questions for Sargent, almost certainly out of the seat of F1 entirely, and probably going to IndyCar next year or something along those lines. And of course, they've signed Carlos Sainz for 2025, a big exciting signing. I think an Albon Sainz driver lineup will be very, very strong, probably the strongest lineup in the bottom, I would say even bottom 16s. I think, that's probably a better lineup than what Aston Martin have. So again, very exciting for Williams to have such a capable lineup for 2025. They're going to be trying to bring that positive momentum from the signing. Hope that can translate on a track with some performance upgrades, with some improved pace into the last year of the regulations next year. So anyway, that's my half-season review of Williams. Again, a bit of a step back compared to last year, but I do think they're on a good path forward. Anyway, thank you so much for watching. Goodbye.